Welcome to Triangle BNI. Today's show is brought to you by Oak City Tech. We talk all the time about the digital world and what's out there and what should be out there. You need professionals like Drago and his team helping you get your message out to your current clients and your future clients because it is crowded in that world. You need professionals like the team at Oak City Tech. If you go to oakcitytech.com, tell them what you're looking for. I know they'll be able to help. Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Manning. Each week on Triangle BNI, we bring you a local small business success story. If you are not familiar with BNI, it is Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. Our little slice of heaven here in the Triangle, Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill. Each week, 31 chapters and about 530 members get together, and our goal is to help each other grow our businesses. And our local small business success story this week, Blake Taylor with PayBright. Blake is in RD10, the Power Partners. They meet Thursdays at noon at Logan's Roadhouse in Garner. Blake is the president of the group, so you know it's a good group. Blake, glad to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me this morning.
BNI means a lot of things to a lot of people. You and I are in the B2B world. You are merchant services, credit card processing, whatever people want to call that. So you're one of those industries that we know we need, but we don't know a lot about it. So PayBright, you guys are helping small businesses. And let me back up. So I went into a store the other day and I felt so bad. It was 78 cents, something I had to buy. Oh, I was paying my taxes. So I had to go by the post office. So one of my envelopes was a little bit more than the other, and I didn't have a dollar on me, Blake, and I felt so bad because I'd used my credit card for 78 cents. I know it probably cost them more to do that than get it. The government, I'm not worried about. But in credit card merchant services world, that's an area that can be of interest to business owners to make sure their business is running efficiently.
Absolutely.
So, what kind of things when you talk to small businesses, what do they know? What are they looking for? And where do they need the most help?
So, in my experience, small business owners, they're always looking for help in this area. It's one of the areas that, quite frankly, they don't understand. And I think it's probably meant to be that way from a processing standpoint. So, we at PayBright, we certainly take pride in educating the business owners that we work with on how that works. So generally, what they're looking for is new ways to take payments, obviously lower rates and lower costs, and free equipment. Most business owners don't like paying a whole lot of money out of pocket for equipment, and we can help them with that.
We know we need it. We know it's important. And I mean, in the digital world, there's new stuff coming out every day to pay for something, isn't there?
Absolutely. One of the most popular ways right now to pay for things is Apple Pay. A lot of businesses have not moved to the proper technology to be able to take those sorts of payments, but we see it more and more every day where businesses are calling us specifically to be able to have the technology to be able to do that.
And you can help on all these different apps and businesses coming out with ways to pay for services and products.
Absolutely.
One of the things I've learned many things in BNI. First thing is to shop local, and yes, you are a bigger, not a bigger company, but you do business in different places. But again, I need to know Blake's cell phone number. So if I got a problem, I'm not calling a 1-800 number to help and stuff like that. But I've learned with the tradespeople and companies on the go, when you swipe a credit card because you're at a remote location, or I come cut your grass and, knock on the door, hey, I'm finished. Everything looked good. And, I have my whatever thing I have that I swipe your credit card with. But I've learned that those are valuable for people on the go.
They certainly are. One of the ways that we can help businesses with that is providing them technology to use their cell phone to take payments, or simply a side terminal that would connect to a mobile hotspot. So they're not connected to their cell phone at all. Clover handheld, Clover Flex devices are capable of facilitating transactions, and it's simply a handheld device that can connect to a hotspot.
You are talking to the 60 and over crowd, so let me preface that before I make the statement of how stupid I am sometimes. My wife and I were headed out of town a couple of weeks ago, and we're going to McDonald's because she likes her caramel, iced coffee, and we got that, and I got my sweet tea, and we got a couple things to eat, and the lady in the drive-through handed the unit, whatever you call that, for the credit card, and tapped she said, "Tap this," and guess what so I'm like with my finger and
Have to.
yeah, no, no, your credit card, like, "Oh god." So technology's even gotten to that, right? That I don't need to insert it or swipe it anymore, I can just tap it.
Yeah, just present your card to
Yeah.
the terminal itself, and it'll read that transaction or read your information for you, and easy peasy, you're done.
I felt so stupid, and the look on my wife's face was like, "God, I married an idiot." And I deserved every one of those comments, so now I learned are you a technology guy?
I wouldn't say that I am, but everything's relative, right? Uh, I enjoy technology. I learn new things about technology all the time. I believe that, especially in the payments world, that's something that is inevitable, that technology is going to change and evolve as, you know, time progresses. And we're going to be able to facilitate those, methods of change for businesses as technology changes throughout the future.
Is it moving too fast?
I don't think so. No. It's well, some may say it is. I don't think it is. It hasn't moved too fast to where we're unable to keep up with it in our industry or as a company.
Can I assume that even while we're talking, somebody's inventing something?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. There are people sitting around in rooms just thinking of ways to better anything really, not just in the payments world, but anything really.
In your world, when you're talking to other small business owners, what's the best thing we can do to protect our information and payment methods?
I would certainly say use Tap or Apple Pay. Apple Pay is, one of the most secure ways to facilitate a transaction. I've moved to it. Most people that I know have moved to it, but it's just a way that encrypts your data to a point to where it's almost impossible for someone to get that information.
I guess that's one of the myths and let's go back to my generation because that's probably where most of the pushback comes from. I know there's some people that still don't wanna pay online, but we
Mhm.
gotta know that that's the lifeblood of a business is to protect that information that you're about to give them to pay for something.
Absolutely, absolutely,
And they know that they better have everything in order, so when we pay them, last thing we need is trouble coming back from that.
absolutely. I 100% agree.
We laugh occasionally because Amnon's in this world of, internet service provider and protection, stuff like that, and again, the one that always jumps out at me, and I used to get this from my mom a few years ago, "Oh, I got a phone call from the IRS." "No, mom, you didn't."
That'll never happen.
And yet, no matter how many times you try to explain to people that are older than you, the IRS doesn't call people, but you're such a nice fellow on the phone, Michael.
Of course he was.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he wanted your money, mom. That's why he's so nice to you. What got you to PayBright?
Well, I met Dustin Magaziner, who's the founder and CEO of PayBright. we did jujitsu together at Gracie Raleigh, which is a gym in Raleigh that I've been a part of for multiple years. Uh, it's one of those stories. A guy walks into a bar, right? So one night, I walked into this bar. Dustin popped in there as well, and we got to talking. Outside of the gym, we really didn't know. I didn't certainly didn't know what he did for work. I knew he was always on the phone, which in my mind meant he was super busy, and it was not the type of thing that he would walk into the gym on the phone with a casual conversation. So I knew that he had a lot going on. So we got to talk about that tonight at the bar. Uh, Long story short, 2 weeks later, I was down in South Carolina with one of the partners, training and learning the ropes of the company.
What were you doing before that?
I was coaching at Gracie Raleigh. I also still part time coach kickboxing and Brazilian Jiu Jitsu there.
All right, we're gonna get to some of those in a second, but, uh
That's where the interesting part comes in.
yeah, but I always like, how things got started. I love those
Oh yeah.
stories, those moments in time where 2 people or 10 people decided, "Hey, it's time." PayBright was started at Furman, if I read my stuff right on you guys, at Furman University in South Carolina about 10 years ago.
Mhm.
And I know there's a story of 3 guys or 2 guys sitting around a dorm room one night going, "Hey, what about this?"
Yeah, you know, from what I've been told with Dustin, that's kind of the backstory behind it. Uh, they thought that they could do something better in that area than the way things were currently being done. Uh, they put their heads together and developed this company. I know Dustin knocked on a ton of doors while he was still in college, getting the company off the ground, and pretty much the rest is history. But it's similar to any startup. There was a lot of work that went in, behind it that frankly I didn't get to see, and a lot of people probably didn't get to see. But it's grown into something super special, in my opinion, that we're able to work with lots of local businesses all over the place, really, and provide them with the quality of service that, frankly, is missing in our industry. It's it's something that we take pride in as a company to actually, treat our clients and treat our customers, you know, as special as we can, not just as another account that we sign up and, sayonara, we never see you again, or never hear from you again.
And that's another thing I've learned through BNI, and I know you have as well, is the value of that relationship. When
Absolutely.
I do new member training, and I like to ask people, "Are you transactional or are you relational?" And
Yeah.
sometimes they stop and go, "What do you mean?" And that answers my question for me. So I'm sensing you guys are more relational, or at least try to be.
We certainly try to be. I think that, it can differ to some aspect from agent to agent, but as a company, the culture is very relational. With different personality types are, going to be more task oriented, more, people oriented. But as a culture within our company, we certainly try to focus on the relational part of the business, and keeping the relationships with the business, asking referrals from from the businesses that we work with, and just popping in to say hi. uh, if it's a restaurant, go in there and have lunch with them, let them see you. If it's a bar that you work with, go in there, have a drink. Don't just do business with them and they never see or hear from you again. Make sure that they get to see you and they know that you care about them and you also care about their business. Which, I'm not saying that as a sales pitch. It's something that I believe is very genuine within our culture, that it's something that we, try to implement across all of our reps.
I always like when I hear somebody say, and forgive the language here on my generation, but when they say, "Let me call my guy," or "Let me call my girl, lady," I don't I'd wanna dismiss it that way, but there's a relationship there when they say, Let me call my people real quick." And I've
Yeah,
always thought as a bit small business, that's where you wanna get.
that is where you want to get. And that's, I guess, if I can tie that into BNI, I strive to have a relationship with the businesses that I work with to the point to where they know, hey, look, if you need anything, I'm pretty well connected in the area. Just if you can't find someone, I don't care what it is you're looking for, reach out to me. I may know someone, and there's been instances where you know, businesses have had issues. I had a business owner call me a couple weeks ago that was trying to buy a house. He was looking for a loan or a mortgage broker. I was able to connect him with a mortgage broker. Then he that's in our group. Then also I asked him if he had a real estate agent. He said, "Yeah, I have one that I'm working with. I'm pretty happy with them." And, I threw out Keith Bonham's name, who's with Keller Williams. And ironically enough, Keith Bonham had just given his weekly 10-minute presentation with BNI that day. And, you know, I'm always looking, when someone does a 10-minute presentation to throw them something within the next week. Keith is phenomenal in the sense that as a realtor, again, very similar to merchant services, can be a very competitive market to be in, especially now in real estate, primarily residential. Um, Keith treats the people that he works with the same way that I do. So the culture that he tries to implement within his business is identical to that of PayBright. So I told this gentleman that was asking for a realtor. I said, "Hey, look, this is my buddy Keith. Uh, uh, Give him a call. If something goes awry with the person you're working with, reach out to him. This is his information. Let him know that I, told you to call him. And by the way, you're going to get the same exact quality of service and personalization with him that you get with us." And long story short, Keith got the business.
And I'm with you. I think that matters because I think a lot of people need the comfort of knowing, okay, I'm dealing with somebody who knows what they're doing.
Totally, totally. Especially in these saturated, markets or industries rather. Real estate draws a lot of people right now. Keith he's seen a lot. He's been around a lot. Same thing with merchant services. I've been doing this for almost 5 years, but I don't consider myself seasoned by any stretch of the imagination. But if I come across something that I'm unfamiliar with or that I don't have an answer to, uh, help is a quick phone call away that I can usually get a pretty quick response.
And speaking of unfamiliar, after you got back from training, how quick did you go cold calling, and how much fun was that first week for you?
Uh, well, do you want me to be honest?
Yeah, because it was all I hated it. I'm not till I
So
till I understood it, but go ahead. I wanna hear about your first week or 2.
my first week after coming back from training, um, was a struggle. I still really didn't understand or know what I was doing. Uh, Dustin, who rarely goes out into the field anymore, I'm super thankful he was very hands on in my training. And still is, frankly. And I'm also super thankful for that. But Dustin spent several weeks with me out in the field, walking me through the process, knocking on doors. It was, one of those things where I would watch him work, and I would help him work, and then he would help me work, and then he would watch me work. But it was not easy by any stretch of the imagination. it took me a while to close my first deal on my own. And the first deal that I closed on my own was a Chinese restaurant, and they did not speak uh, English hardly at all. And it, it took me about 3 hours to close this deal. And now, it takes me about 10 minutes if someone's ready to move forward. But the language barrier took me about 3 hours. And I think it was that moment that I knew that, and I think I've told Dustin this in the past, that I can do this. If I can break that language barrier and make this make sense to someone who we didn't understand each other, and they trusted me to the point to where they felt comfortable in doing business with me. I knew that, no matter how slowly I could, build this or build a book of business, that I could do it. So that was a huge confidence booster for me.
Yeah, cold calling's hard, and if you go in, "Hey, buy our stuff," you we it again, I'm with you because when I got into BNI, 2013, I think it was, with commercial cleaning, and if they have a problem, you don't have a solution. That's gonna be a short visit, and it takes a while to figure out what questions to ask to figure out, "Hey, what do you have right now? What are your challenges and what are you looking for?" Because it's hard, it's not a lot of fun, and those can be some beat down days.
Yeah, it's definitely a numbers game. I still cold call. It's something that I've grown to enjoy the process of. Not that I love it by any stretch of the imagination, um, but I certainly it's like treasure hunting, right? Like you're out in an area, you're going to find something, and you're going to be able to help somebody. You're going to build a relationship, and you never know what's going to come from that. So rather than going out looking to see what you can get, it's more so, I know there's somebody in this area that I'm working today that I can help. I don't know how it's going to benefit me, and frankly, I'm at the point to where I don't want to say that I don't care how it benefits me. I'm more concerned as to how I can help them and build a good reputation for our company in the areas that I work. So that's what I get out of cold calling these days. And now it's super easy. By no stretch of the imagination is it as difficult as it was when I first started, but it's getting exposed to that discomfort and that fear over time that makes you a little bit more comfortable with it, as you progress.
Have you found a particular industry you enjoy working with?
Nothing that stands out in particular. Honestly, I like working with all industries. Restaurants are fun because you get to find these restaurants that you never knew existed. I was out in an area last week that was just this totally obscure rural area of North Carolina, and found this waffle shop. Uh, it's kind of a breakfast spot that's started out as a food truck, and developed into this small little you know restaurant where they have picnic tables and things outside, and by far is the best chicken and waffles I've ever had in my life. um, I'll say that Beasley's Chicken and Waffles downtown in Raleigh was the best, and this little shop uh, out in Micro, North Carolina, if you guys know where that's at, by far the best. It was freshly made, cooked right on the spot, and I enjoyed it thoroughly and very reasonably priced.
And did they become a client of yours?
I'm working on it.
There you
So
go.
actually, oddly enough, the owner of this, so networking, right? I'm always networking. I met this guy at a yoga class. Um, we were, talking afterwards, got to chatting. He mentioned that he had a food truck and a restaurant, And I was like, "Oh, where?" And he's like, "Oh, you probably don't know because he lives in Raleigh." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I know exactly where that's at. I'm super familiar with that area." I didn't tell him what I did or anything like that. But I was like, I'm going to be in the area later this week. I'll be sure to pop in. I'd love to, grab breakfast there. Um, so yeah, always networking, always keep my antennas up to meet people, and not only for what I can gain for our company, but maybe someone needs help with something else. Maybe someone needs financial planning, or needs a good mechanic or something like that. So always keeping your antennas up
Mm.
is a way to help everyone win.
Yeah, and I like it because you never know who's gonna walk into the room.
No,
You
not at
truly
all.
you truly don't know.
Yeah, and usually in those instances, I just kind of keep my mouth shut and
Mm.
just kind of listen around and chime in as needed, uh, and just kind of see where it goes.
You, you have a, background of kickboxing, you'd mentioned jujitsu, yoga, CrossFit, wrestling, all that stuff. Has that
Mhm.
helped you to attack the world and attack the day in cold calling and finding new business?
It's I feel like I've gotten softer as I've gotten older. I definitely was more aggressive in my younger days, so to speak. And I was also more aggressive in that aspect in, uh, how those things helps translate over to business. Um, one of the things that I've learned in those particular sports, or in just any sport in general, burnout is a thing. You have to pace yourself. Uh, and I think, once you get things off the ground, there's it's sometimes necessary to throttle back in order to maintain what you've had, but also continue to build. Uh, Wrestling, for example, uh, when I first started wrestling back in middle school, it was something that I did all the time. Got to high school all the time. If there were workouts, I was at the gym. If there weren't workouts and the gym was open, and maybe the weight room was open and I could get to the wrestling room, I would go in there and, do my own thing, do shadow drills, movement drills, and things like that. Just totally obsessed with what I was doing. Uh, Later on in life, you learn how to become more rounded in that particular sport, how to develop not only the skills that you need to wrestle, but also, conditioning, strength, and things like that. And that translates over to, my experience in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and kickboxing as well. Uh, Being more rounded in anything that you do is going to benefit you in so many other areas.
And those sports are high on structure and discipline, which I know helps in the
Oh
sales
yeah,
world.
totally, totally. Almost to the point where you mentioned that I don't even think about that. It's Those are sports that you have to have discipline in so many areas of your life, outside of the sport. If you want to excel at those things, you can't be, you know, staying up late at night doing what some people do when they're in college or even in high school. Uh, you have to, watch your diet, what you're putting in your body, what you're, consuming is going to affect how you perform. Same thing in sales, or, running a company or running a business. If I'm eating garbage food all the time, I'm going to feel terrible. If I'm not, working out, treating my body the way that it needs to be treated, I'm going to feel terrible. If I'm not getting the sleep that I need, same thing. So the structure and the discipline that it took to excel at those things, and I still do those things. It's just more rounded now, and how they contribute to my life.
You were a collegiate wrestler at Appalachian State. And for some of my Southern friends and folks, that's not wrestling. It's actually Greco Roman Olympic style wrestling. Do you, first of all, as a high school athlete, anybody that did anything at any college level, I tip my hat to, because a lot of us who played sports in high school wanted to or thought we, could move to to the collegiate level. So kudos for doing that. Do you remember your first match at App State?
I don't remember my first match, but I do remember one in particular that stands out. That was my first tournament. My first match, I don't remember, but I do remember this particular tournament. It was at UNC Chapel Hill, I believe. It was over the holidays. I forget the name of the tournament, but it's a tournament that is pretty well known in the collegiate wrestling world. So in turn, a lot of really good teams show up, and a lot of good wrestlers show up as well. So I'm a nobody uh, at this point in my wrestling career, and what that means is that when it comes to brackets, you get the last seed. Well, if you're the last seed, you get the number one seed, right? So I'm the type of person, I've never looked at the brackets. I kind of just take things as they go to me. And my first match, I didn't know who I was wrestling. I just knew where I needed to be. So I show up on this mat, and there's this guy in this green singlet. Didn't really know, where he was from or who he was. Uh, at the end of so there's three periods in wrestling. It's 3 minute period, 2 minute period, and another 2 minute period. The first period, 3 minute period ends. We get to decide what position you're in next. I chose bottom because I'm up 4-0. Not bad, I knew I was probably, I didn't know what seed I was, but I knew I was down there, and this guy was probably up there. Well, during that little brief period, over the loudspeaker, the announcer comes on and says something along the lines is uh, former NCAA champ Jake Percival from, I believe it was Michigan at the time, is down 4-0 by with Blake Taylor from Appalachian State, and it hit me. I was like, "Uh-oh." Uh, um, it hit me, that I was up on him, and I was like, "Oh wow, that's impressive." But I also knew this guy at this point, and I knew that he was very good on top. Long story short, he got ahead of me that round. I ended up losing the match, I believe 7-4 or 7-5, maybe. Uh, but that's one that stands out the most, and frankly, it's the only one that I really remember from college. I wasn't a superstar college athlete by any stretch of the imagination. I was a great athlete in North Carolina, but moving from high school to college, you can be a superstar at what you do in your own right, in your own territory. But when you get exposed to other athletes across the country, it humbles you quite a bit, and you get to see that there are different, levels of talent throughout the country.
What weight class did you wrestle in at App State?
157.
What did you wrestle in high school?
Oh wow! So I believe my freshman year I was 119 or 125, all the way up. So we had an awesome wrestling team. I went to my high school. We had a pretty stacked team, and did pretty well. Individually in the state tournament, and also as a team in the state tournament. So the open weight classes were the weight classes that you had to either you either got thrown there or you dropped a lot of weight to get there. So 119 or 125 for 3 years from freshman to sophomore, and kind of made that my own because that was, where I would have an opportunity to start because I wasn't going to beat the guy above me. And I certainly wasn't going to beat the guy below me. So I made that my own. Uh, the First tournament in high school I went to, I got third place, which I thought was pretty awesome. I'd never won anything like that before, especially in an individual sport. And I remember the bus ride back, it was kind of the upperclassmen taking me under their wing, like, hey, you're one of us now. Proving myself to them, made it very easy in the years to come to get the instruction and the nurture that I needed to develop myself, you know, as a good wrestler. Then senior year hits. I'm very hungry. um, Hungry in the literal sense, as to I don't want to drop weight anymore. So that year, I went to a qualifier for nationals in North Dakota, and I believe I qualified at 145. And said to myself, I'm not dropping weight. I want to see if I can do this, fully nourished, right? And eating like I'm supposed to, and not, put in a whole lot of extra work to drop weight or anything like that. So went to nationals in North Dakota at 145. Then coming back, I think it was the weight class for high school was 152. My senior year is what I competed at. So pretty big jump.
What
Grew
high
a
s
lot,
what
or
high school?
filled out a lot. Southern Nash High School.
Oh, yeah, okay. Here's my wrestling story from high school. I went to Millbrook. I did not wrestle, but I had some friends on the wrestling team, and you're right, making weight, there would be wrestlers on game day with full rain suits, wetsuits, whatever you wanna call them, just running turning the hot water on in the showers and just running around in there to drop weight. They would take laxatives, they would do all kinds of things to make weight, and that just wasn't good for your body on game day, was
No,
it?
not at all. I am proud to say, and you can only appreciate this if you've ever been in the sport, or you know participated in the sport. I've never missed weight. I've never had to cut an outstanding amount of weight on game day. I was always, the day to compete is, the day you're ready. Either you're ready that day or you're not. And I always made sure I had planned in place to where I was ready to go that day, to where I was able to eat what I needed to eat, and be fully nourished, uh, to be able to perform. Because if your body's not nourished, you're not going to perform as well as you could. And there are times that I probably wasn't as nourished as I should have been, but neither is the other guy, right? In most cases. So you kind of use that to your advantage. Like, if I'm hurting, this guy's probably hurt too. And then it just it frankly comes down to a battle of wills at that point, which reveals yourself to a completely different side of you.
If this coming weekend there's a post-college wrestling tournament, how many rounds could you give us?
Post college wrestling tournament. Um, if there was one, I I would definitely participate. So here's the funny thing about this now is, because I still help coach at my high school, and have at our gym, have some experience with some college guys as well. And jujitsu, being a grappling sport as well, has really complemented that wrestling. So I don't want to say I would do super well at it, but I'd be okay. I don't want to say that arrogantly or anything like that, but it's one of those things that I've done my best to, because I enjoy the sport. I enjoy being on the mat. I enjoy how it keeps my body in shape. I think I would be able to do well, do okay. I don't want to say I would win, but I'd be okay.
What weight class would you have to wrestle in this weekend?
185.
But that's a muscular, healthy 185, right?
It is. It
Okay.
is.
Right.
It's a very, I don't want to say very muscular, but it's a very well nourished, well fed. I feel like I'm in good shape. I still work out and lift weights occasionally, 3 to 4 times a week. I'm pretty active, cardiovascularly. Feel like I'm in good shape, or at least my doctors say I am. Um, but being in good shape as a regular person is completely different from being in shape uh, compared to a college athlete, particularly a wrestler. It's a completely different standard there.
Yeah, the analogy I always listen for in football, you hear guys at the NFL level, they hold out and they talk
Mhm.
about, well, so Blake signed his contract. He's coming into camp this week. And the ex players always say there's in shape and then there's football shape. And I think that goes to
Absolutely,
wrestling, right? There's in shape and then there's wrestling shape.
absolutely. I mean, and to football. You're against guys who are in the NFL and college too. This is what these guys do. This is their profession. You talk about business owners and CEOs and things like that who build a company and are awesome at what they do in their own right. But these guys are CEOs of the positions that they play. A quarterback, who I don't follow football much, but I think isn't it Tom Brady that has retired and come back, and he was Tampa Bay, right?
Yes.
So there's a lot of I hear a lot of people say a lot of negative things about this guy. They don't like him one way or the other. For whatever reason. All I know about the guy is he has performed at a level in his sport that you don't get that kind of knowledge and expertise without being an absolute master of the craft, you
Yes.
know? And my hat's off to him. Uh, Anything that you do, hopefully for people, in whatever endeavor that they're pursuing, that's the end goal, right? To be the master of, that particular profession to the level that you can. I think there's always going to be, someone out there who eventually surpasses you and is better than you. And I think, from a mentor and protege standpoint, that should be, you look at Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, Kobe Bryant was awesome in his own right. There'll never be another Michael Jordan. And same with LeBron James. You read these interviews from Michael Jordan, he was like a dad watching his son surpass him and, become better than him, and was readily available to him to help him in any way that he could become better than him. And I think that's important,
And plus Brady's 44, he will be 45, so to do a
which is
sport at
still
that age
impressive.
I know. Oh, I'm with you on that.
Oh my gosh.
If
Yeah,
we have a budding young wrestler or jujitsu competitor that wants to go into competition, what's the biggest mindset tip you could give somebody going into a physical competition like that?
keep your expectations low. Um, that's not saying don't expect to win. Do everything you can do and can control to prepare to win, but keep your expectations low. In the coaching arena, that's the mindset that I try to instill in the athletes that I coach. Prepare as you should, but there are certain things in an individual sport, particularly a combative sport, that once you're under those lights and you're in that arena, that you just can't prepare for. The noise, the adrenaline, the heat, literally the heat from lights being on you. It's unbelievably hot at times, depending on how close you are to the lights. Is very uncomfortable. you don't know how you're going to react when someone's trying to hurt you. So keep your expectations low, do your absolute best, and, you know, take the results as they come, and go back to the trestle board as, you get the results and improve from there. It's something that I learned. My coaching was a little bit different. It's you go out here, expect to win, and you're going to win. Well, the people that I deal with now, a lot of them haven't competed in sports like I have in my entire life. So I try to keep the bar low for them to go out, have fun, learn something, and we'll go back to the drawing board and kind of develop from there. This isn't something that a lot of people do for a living. It's, if you have someone who is brand new to the sports and just starting out, I say this all the time, and it goes back to, working in sales with PayBright. How good was I my first cold call? You know, keep expectations low. If you go out there and you close that first deal, good for you. But don't expect that to happen every time. There are only so many. I don't know if you know the name Kel Sanderson or Dan Gables, George St. Pierre's, Anderson Silva's. There are only so many of them out there. Muhammad Ali, Floyd Mayweather. These guys are phenomenal in their own right, and while they are the standard of perfection in those given sports, you got to go from 0 to 1 before you can go from 0 to where they're at. And I think I've approached, working for PayBright the same way, and have, again, tried to instill that into the people that I coach at our gym as well.
Very nice, good advice, and I go back to, I think it was Mike Tyson's quote, about everybody has a plan till they get hit in the mouth, and I
Absolutely.
can imagine a couple times you've walked into stuff, it's like, "Oh, hang on a sec."
Yeah, I mean, you don't know what, when somebody hits you for the first time with bad intentions, you don't know how you're going to react. And it can be something as simple as getting kicked in the leg. You know, frankly, getting hit in the face doesn't hurt a whole lot when you compare it to other things that can happen, right? Getting kicked in the leg hurts a whole heck of a lot worse than you would think that getting hit in the face hurts worse. Getting hit in the liver,
Yep.
uh, you know, that is, I'd rather get knocked out any day of the week than get hit in the liver. It's debilitating. If you want to do something fun later today, go on YouTube and Google liver KOs, liver
Oh,
knockouts, whether it's in boxing or
jeez.
anything else, and you'll see these guys are fully awake when this happens, right? And there's a delayed response. So they get hit, they think they're okay, and the next thing, and it's like 2 or 3 seconds, you just keel over, and you can't move, you can't breathe, and it's the absolute worst thing in the world because you're awake for all of it. If you're knocked out, at least you can't feel it, and you wake up and there's really no pain. You may have a headache after a while, but getting hit in the liver, oh, it's terrible because you're awake for the entire thing. It's the most painful thing that I've ever experienced in combative sports.
Yeah, I tip my cap and question everybody that wants to go in the octagon. I get it, the competitive side, but man, sometimes there's some bad days. But Blake, I've enjoyed having you on the show today. Good stories on the wrestling, good tips on credit card for business. We've been putting your phone number up there throughout the show. So, folks, if you have a business, getting ready to start a business to take payments, you need somebody like Blake. He can answer some questions for you, but make sure you do it right. And Blake, if you'll hang on after the credits, want to talk to you a little bit more. But we've enjoyed it very much. Good luck the rest of the way in 2022 for you and your chapter. And we'll see everybody next time on Triangle BNI.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.